Welcome to the podcast that will teach you how to successfully invest in and build steady streams of passive income from the highly lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. Veteran real estate investors Kevin Bupp and Charles Dehart from Mobile Home Park Academy will personally share with you the valuable lessons they've learned along their journey as mobile home park investors, so that you too can learn how to build massive cash flow and huge profits from this extremely lucrative niche. So without further ado, let's welcome your hosts for today's show, Kevin Bupp and Charles Dehart.
Welcome, guys and gals, to the Mobile Home Park Academy's weekly podcast, where we'll provide all the information that you need to know to successfully locate, negotiate, close on, and make huge profits from the lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. I'm your host, Kevin Bupp, along with my, no co-host today, guys. I tricked you a little bit. Charles is not with me today, so it's just me rolling solo. Actually, I'm not rolling solo because I've got a guest here that's going to just knock your socks off. So on today's show, we're going to be sharing the stage with Stephen Tomaso, and he's a longtime industry veteran who specializes in mobile home and RV park sales and consulting services. And today's interview was actually prompted after a discussion that Stephen and I had a few weeks back regarding a few mobile home parks that he has for sale. And during that conversation, we somehow got on a tangent, which sometimes these conversations go that way. We ended up talking about RV parks. And now, as you guys know, Charles and I, we specialize in mobile home parks. And while sometimes our parks might have maybe a small RV component, we still consider ourselves mobile home park experts and know very little about the RV industry itself. Well, come to find out, Stephen has a ton of experience in the RV park space, and will go as far to even say that he favors the RV park business model over the traditional mobile home park model that we know and love. And so that's the reason I have him joining us here today on the show. And you see, in my mind, the traditional RV park is a very, very different business than the mobile home park that we discuss on the show. And so I wanted to find out more about the allure of this business and why Stephen loves it so much. But before we introduce Stephen to the show, I'd like to run through a few quick laundry list items here. And the first one is, just want to announce that the Mobile Home Park Academy is now open, and we're accepting students who have a serious interest in learning how to make money in this lucrative niche of mobile home parks. And the Mobile Home Park Academy, it's a 90-day intensive program, is by far the most in-depth training and coaching that you will find on this niche. So if you have an interest in learning about this business, you can go to our website, mobilehomeparkacademy.com. Also, we recently opened up our Mobile Home Park Investment Partnership Fund, and we're looking for investors like you who have an interest in partnering with me and my team on deals, on future mobile home park deals. And you can read more about that by visiting our company website, which is sunrisecapitalinvestors.com. And Charles and I would love the opportunity to show you why we think mobile home parks are one of the best kept secrets and how they regularly outperform just about every other type of real estate investment that you know of. And just in case you didn't know, guys, I've been in this business a long time, not mobile home parks specifically, but as a real estate investor full-time for, 17 years now. And I've done more than $40 million of real estate transactions my time as a principal, and I've done a little bit of everything. I've owned apartments, single-family homes, commercial real estate, and for the past 5 years, we've focused on mobile home parks, and I have yet to see any other real estate investment type that can hold a candle to mobile home parks. Again, so if you want to learn more about partnering with me and my team, you can go to sunrisecapitalinvestors.com. And in addition to the partnership opportunity, Charles and I, we actually added a bonus that I wanted to mention real quick, and that was based on direct feedback from many of you who have shown an interest in partnering with us on deals, but who also have an interest in learning the actual mechanics of the business. Okay, so now we're offering complimentary lifetime memberships to the Mobile Home Park Academy to anyone who decides to partner with us on deals in our partnership fund. And by doing this, we're basically allowing you to invest with us, side by side with us firsthand, and see the internal workings of our very own business. So not only will you get to participate in deals with us, but you also have the opportunity to learn the exact systems and processes that we use in our very own business. So if you want to learn more about that, go to sunrisecapitalinvestors.com. And lastly, if you ever find yourself in the Tampa Bay area, be sure to look Charles and I up. We're based in Clearwater, Florida, and we love meeting others who share the same passion for mobile home park investing or just real estate investing in general. And so look us up. You can reach out to us. Send us an email, mobilehomeparkacademy@gmail.com. Again, mobilehomeparkacademy@gmail.com. And let's try to coordinate a time to get together while you're here visiting beautiful Tampa Bay area. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Stephen to the show. Stephen, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I want to thank you for joining us. And you're actually joining us from the MHI conference out in Vegas right now, aren't you?
Yes, yep, I am. After we chat today, I'm going to head over to the convention and go and visit everybody that's attending.
Okay, very cool. And I was telling Stephen that we attended that conference many years ago, haven't been in a few years, and probably should put it back on our list of places to go. That's basically, Stephen, that's the largest event of the year as far as the mobile home industry is concerned, correct?
Yeah, it's definitely, what some consider the Mecca. It's a good spot to be in if you're, interested in seeing what's happening. Anybody's looking to disposition or do any new kind of acquisitions for their portfolio. Gets people face to face, and sometimes there's deals to be made out here.
Okay, well, good deal. Well, Steve, I'd love to learn a little bit more about you and your background. So if you would, maybe take a few minutes and tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and how you got your start in this industry.
Yeah, well, I was a mortgage broker when I got out of college. Then back in 2008, with the mortgage meltdown, the bank I was working for closed their branches up, and I had to go find a new job. And I started working in a call center for an RV resort company, and that was about 9 years ago. And I was able to learn the whole RV business and go to a lot of different RV resorts by starting off just doing the reservations. Got to learn more on the marketing end of it because it is, to some degree like a hotel. And went through the period where vacation rentals and RV resorts became very popular. And, had worked my way through the RV resort company that I was with. They ended up getting sold off to a big REIT that was in Michigan. And then I ended up going over working for them and being a consultant for them because they were mainly manufactured housing REIT for the most part. And then got into the manufactured housing end of it and went through a lot of different acquisitions. And now I'm here today as a broker, and I do asset management for RV resort parks.
Okay. And so you're a broker and an asset manager. And what does that mean that you're an asset manager? I mean, do you consult with other owners and operators on their parks individually, or give us a little bit more of a background about that?
I basically work directly for owners of parks. They will have property managers that are on site because of how active these parks are. They usually benefit the most from having people there, but we make sure all the financials, the capital expenditures, marketing, and all of the different things that need to be looked at in the park are being reviewed constantly, and are kind of going on course. It just is, and a lot of times it helps to make sure that deferred maintenance isn't happening, or financials are getting out of whack, and basically kind of help manage the park for an owner to give them a little bit of breathing room so they can benefit from the money-making aspect of the park.
Okay, so you're kind of like the in-between, I guess. You're a layer in between the owners and the on-site management staff, and your goal is just to basically call yourself a general manager of some sorts, right? I mean, you're basically overseeing the entire operations, and you're just sandwiched in between the owner of that property and the actual on-site management team. Is that a good way to look at it?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, fantastic. And I just, RV parks, we never talk about that in the show because it really is a completely different business than mobile home parks. I mean, they're very similar in multiple ways, but also very different in many others. So maybe we could start off by just talking about some of the various types of RV parks that are out there, because it's not just a one-size-fits-all. So can maybe speak to the different types of RV parks that are in this, in the United States? Yeah,
of course. I guess if we start up in the Northeast, they're usually very family-oriented. They'll a lot of times have campground stores and are very transient-based, where I've seen that the people that usually have the most success in those are hyperactive managers, people who are very ambitious and look to benefit from being able to make money in all different aspects of the business. Then if you go down to the southeast, down into the Florida, region where there is a lot of RV resorts, they're very similar to manufactured housing communities, for the most part. They may have some extra amenities and social events that a traditional manufactured housing community, wouldn't have, but they're run very similarly, and people are sometimes even staying there on an annual basis. If you go to the Southwest, there's a lot of parks that are very similar to Florida, where there are a lot of retiree type of parks, 55 plus. And then going up into California, it's sort of a hybrid of how the Northeast parks and the southern type of parks are, where there may not be as many amenities that are in some of the Northeast parks, but they do have certain elements that are added to them that make them hotel type of properties. And then there is some basic campgrounds where they're just like parks where people can bring their tent, and then they have some sites for RVs. And some of these types of properties also have marinas and things along those lines where they rent out boat slips, like how individuals might rent out a site in their park.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so you'd mentioned like the kind of parks that you might find in the Northeast that that are more meant for like a hyperactive type of owner. Do you find that those types of parks that have a lot of moving parts to them, that have multiple different ancillary income streams, do you find that those are more like mom and pop type run facilities, or are there some larger operators that own those types of parks?
There's definitely larger operators that own those type of parks. Okay. All the major REITs they own some of those types of assets, and they're usually affiliated with a franchise. So
like a KOA or something like that?
A KOA, a Yogi Bear, and they're able to give guidance to a lot of these different types of mom and pop operators to keep them up to date with all the latest happenings and things along those lines. And I've seen a lot of RV resorts in the Northeast operated by mom and pops that were doing very, very well. Sometimes their rentals would be generating from $20,000 to $25,000 a year, in comparison to if you were to rent a manufactured home out that's in a community, we'll say even for $1,000, they would be getting maybe only $12,000. So sometimes they were doubling or how much revenue is being produced per site than with some of their comparatively to a manufactured housing community.
Interesting. So. Okay. And then you get down here in Florida, and as you had mentioned, some of these RV parks down here are, most of them, there's a large number that are actually more permanent than anything. You'll get residents that are like on a 6-month basis or even year round. And so they're zoned as RV parks, but there might be, there might be full-time residents living a majority or all of that park. So, lots of it's very common here in Florida, where you got the snowbirds and I guess the other Sunbelt states as well as you go over to the western side of the United States. So I want to talk a little bit about more of a simple comparison of how the typical business operations of an RV park. I know that we just mentioned a couple different kinds there, but how the typical business operations of one of those types of RV parks might differ from that of a mobile home park. The mobile home park, our standard park, we're about 100 spaces in size, like our average size, which is probably on the lower, I guess on the smaller side. There are parks out there that are 400 or 500 spaces inside, sometimes a lot larger than that. But, we typically have a on-site management team, either it's a husband, wife, or sometimes even just an individual, and they live in the park and they kind of run the day-to-day operations, and we oversee them from our office here in Clearwater, Florida. It's a very simple operation. If we have park-owned homes, we might have an on-site maintenance guy if we've got a lot of park-owned homes. If we do not have a lot of park-owned homes, we typically have go-to maintenance people, but nothing that's really a full-time maintenance staff. And we normally just outsource that whenever it's needed. So talk to me about the RV side of things, because there's much more moving parts in a lot of the different RV type parks that are out there, and give me an idea of like the staff needed, how the business model changes with short-term stays versus long-term stays. Like we experience very long-term stays in the mobile home park space, but it might be as short as one night in an RV park. So can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think if you take a look at it, like how the properties that would be in Florida, for example, they would have some of the very same type of staffing structure that a manufactured housing community in Florida would have as well, because they're very similar. I think where the biggest difference that would come into play, where somebody would be able to know, is in the Northeast, because then it's a seasonal type of property that's run sort of similar to a hotel, where they have a front desk person who fields reservations. And because the seasonality of it, and sometimes how big these properties are, there may be a few different people that are taking reservations at the front desk. There's also activities people. A lot of times with these properties, they have activity schedules. They may even have people dressing up as Yogi Bear running around. They obviously have a lot of maintenance. I shouldn't say a lot of maintenance, but they'll probably have a maintenance type of manager, because there's a lot of different amenities to take care of. They'll have swimming pools. They'll have all sorts of things. I've been to some RV parks where they have rope the rope challenges where you're going through the woods, and they'll have bouncy houses. I mean, they'll have all sorts of, different types of things to keep attracting new customers. Mm-hmm. And then they'll have a general manager. I've been out to an RV park that was in Casa Grande, Arizona, that had 100 employees.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
It was a 2,000 site RV park that was out there. And there were a lot of the employees that were there were also residents who came down, and it was a premier RV resort for the country. It's probably one of the top 3 in the country, and they would a lot of it's seasonal, where they're only working for a certain period of time, so they're not full-time employees, but they can have a higher employee count than MH. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And then you say
some of them will have.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
And some of them may even have golf courses on them too. Mm-hmm. So there's that could also bring something that's a little more intensive.
Okay, so more staff like a hotel, and then it really depends on the amenities themselves, because if there's swimming pools, golf courses, ropes courses, bouncy houses, and all the above there, then you're going to need more staff to maintain that kind of stuff and just kind of oversee it, right? If you got swimming pools, you might even have lifeguards on duty, depending on the size of the swimming pool. I'm sure some of these RV resorts are they're probably like Disney World, where they've got, multiple pools and, water slides and all that kind of stuff in them. So the on-site staffing might be a lot more intensive than that of a mobile home park. How about the infrastructure itself? I mean, is it pretty similar infrastructure as far as like water and sewer lines are concerned?
Yes. They, in RV resorts, a lot of times, sometimes they'll just have water and electric. 30 amp and 50 amp. But a lot of times if a park is kind of running at full maturity, which means it's been developed, to the point where, it's, going on all cylinders, I would say they do have water, electric, and sewer. And they'll usually, have 50 amp, because the larger RVs will require 50 amp, sites. But some of the older parks may have 30 amp, but they still run into, some are on public utilities and some have private utilities as well.
Okay. Now talk to me about the evaluation process a little bit, because it's, again, a completely different business model than mobile home parks. Like if you tell me, basically how many lots are in a park, what the utility setup's like, is it public water, public sewer, who pays for the public water, who pays for the public sewer, how many park-owned homes are in the community, and give me a general idea of what the like the taxes and insurance are of that park. I can come up very quickly with a general rule of thumb of what I think the evaluation should look like as far as like how I'm going to operate that park. How does that work with an RV park? Because there's so many different potential streams of income, and with these different ancillary income streams, and then every RV park slightly different than the next. So is there a general rule of thumb as far as the evaluation process is concerned?
Well, in regards to what you would be starting off in an evaluation, at least for myself, as I look at the geographic location that it's in, because since it is driven by tourism, obviously the more desirable of an area that a property is in, obviously the more attractive, the pricing probably should be for somebody that was selling it. Because it will show future growth, moving forward. If an RV resort is in a less desirable area, that's obviously going to change it. In regards to how to value where the revenue that's coming from ancillary income compared to for the revenues that are coming into site rent and things along those lines, I would probably just adjust the cap rate for the revenue that's coming in for the real estate, because the two obviously are correlated with one another. Because if your occupancy is lower and you're getting less individuals to go to your property, the store revenue is going to go down. And then that actually may even become a liability for you, because if you have a lot of things in your store and they don't sell, you could actually lose money on it. Where in an RV, in a manufactured housing, property, there may not be as much exposure to loss from not getting people to be driven in to the park. So I know it seems a little bit gray on there, but the revenue that comes in from some of the ancillary items, I think a wise investor would always remember that it's driven by the people that are going into the property. So that valuation of that part of it has to be much heavier than the revenue coming in for the store, because they're not quite apples to apples. And then for me personally, one area that attracts me most to an RV resort is the base of its seasonal types of long-term stays, because they are very similar to leases in a manufactured housing community. And it helps support the base of that community, through, ups and downs, because the funny part about RV resorts is the revenue can change in a park because of the weather.
Sure.
So if a property has a lot of transient stays, if there's a summer where there's a lot of rain, there you may see swings in an RV park that change, by hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's not because of anything that an operator did with not putting enough CapEx into the property or marketing or operations or anything along those lines. It's just basically driven on weather. So I usually like to take a look at what the seasonal base, when I say seasonal, those are long-term stays, what the base of long-term stays are in the property. And the valuation for those types of stays usually hold one of the strongest values to me, looking at it in an investment standpoint. And then the second part is when you look at home rentals for like park-owned homes, usually in RV resorts, they're more of vacation homes. So people rent them out on a week-to-week basis rather than in a in a mobile home community where people rent them out on an annual basis.
Mm-hmm.
So the valuation for those homes, traditionally the way that I look at it is by taking a look at the Blue Book value of them. And the reason why I do that is because those homes go through a lot of wear and tear, because they probably are rented out from between 10 to 15 weeks a year. So there's a lot of in and out going on with those homes. So sometimes they can, incur different types of refurb costs and things along those lines. And while they do generate a lot of revenue, kind of like what I was talking about earlier in the interview, where sometimes they can even make double of what a manufactured home in a community can make. They have a lot of refurb costs, and also you have to have a cleaning crew that goes in. So sometimes they have additional operational costs. So for the valuation of the homes, I usually just take a look at the NADA value of it to determine the pricing on that. And if they're generating a lot of revenue, I may just make an adjustment on the cap rate to, give the overall valuation of the park a little bit more or less value based on that.
Okay. And how about as far as cap rates are concerned? I mean, I know that's not an apples to apple comparison, but let's say you had I don't know exactly. Is there a star rating system for RV parks just like there's for mobile homes? So like 1 to 5 star? Is that typically how it's categorized?
They do have different star ratings, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you could take as much of an apples to apple comparison as possible, like similar size mobile home park, similar size RV park in the same exact market, both 2.5 stars. Mobile home park would sell at a 9 cap in that particular market in today's standards. Like, could you expect a higher return or a higher cap rate on the RV park from an acquisition side of things, or are they pretty similar?
I would say they're definitely pretty similar.
Okay.
And from my experience looking at, the pricing of all these different RV parks and why it's always been appealing to me is the price per site on RV parks is usually much, much lower. And that's why it attracts me, because there's a higher upside to it than sometimes the manufactured housing side of it. Mm-hmm. If you come in with the correct strategy of stabilizing the property so it is operated somewhat similar to a manufactured housing community, but it still has the extra amenities, so it creates like the fun atmosphere and customer base or customer centric type of management standpoint.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, what are some of the other? Give me some of the other things that you like with RV parks versus mobile home parks. I mean, because again, the whole reason of this call is to kind of compare the two. But you're very fond of RV parks. You just mentioned one of them there because the price per space is typically lower. But are there any other parts of that business model that you just like better than the normal the normal mobile home park business model?
Sure. Yeah, you don't have to deal with a lot of the issues around eviction, obviously, which can be sticky in manufactured housing communities. In terms of diversity for investment holdings, it creates your client base is a little bit different of a customer profile. So your customer profile is a little bit more diverse in regards to your investment properties because they're vacationers, they're not residents, and there's a lot of different ways to keep creatively growing your revenue at the RV parks, where once a manufactured housing community is full with resident-owned homes, there's basically just the steady increases that come from rental increases, where RV parks, they have ancillary sales. You can bring in vacation rentals that can generate more money while you're able to still get rental increases every year. So there's just more opportunity in my eyes to generate more revenue than in manufactured housing. Once a property is completed, there's really not all that much left to do. But it just goes into the taste of the individual investor and how much they want to participate in, being able to drive revenue inside of their investments.
Yeah. See, for me, I love the business model of, we buy a lot of distressed assets. At least some are more distressed than others, but I love getting to the time and point where our communities are full, and the only upside left is just annual rental increases. I like that because there's stability there. I feel like we've got all the bad out, we got the good in, and now it's just a matter of minor turns here and there as far as tenants coming and going. And now it's just it's a steady climb, and hoping that we bought it right and we're comfortable with the current returns that we're receiving. I don't have to put as much energy or thought into that community any longer. I mean, we keep an ongoing program for capital improvements and such, but other than that, it's in my eyes, it's stable. I can focus maybe on the next project. Whereas, for what you're stating is in an RV park, there's definitely a lot of upside potential and continual upside potential, but it might take a lot more of your attention. So, I mean, it might mean that it's better fit for a different type of investor. Maybe not me. Maybe I wouldn't be the best type of fit for an RV park, to where there's always something changing. You've always got to kind of stay one step ahead of the competition, because again, RV parks, unlike mobile home parks, maybe you'll argue this point with me, and you actually know more than I do, but with mobile home parks, there are not a lot of them being built any longer. Whereas RV parks, I'm assuming that, I don't know how many come out of the ground each and every year, but there's probably still a good number being built each and every year, especially in tourist locations. Any idea, Stephen, as to, on average, how many new RV parks get built on a yearly basis?
I don't have that, but if you were to, go through the earning transcripts of all the major REITs that have assets in manufactured housing and RV, you will find that they are able to get zoning in some key geographic areas inside of the country for RV resorts where they wouldn't be able to get them for manufactured housing.
Right.
So having that as as I guess your investment portfolio starts growing larger, it could be looked at as you may be able to start. There's not as much inventory for you to invest in if it's all just in that one asset class. Where RV, there is some opportunity for growth on it. But you're right. There's pros and cons to both sides of it. Where RV is somebody that owns it and holds it, they're really not going to probably build many more communities like that. Where RV, they have been able to get some zoning for it, and there is more availability for it. So I guess the pros and cons would be pros, meaning if you're the guy, you're the actual owner operator, you want to build more, you can. But con could be if you're the other operator that's in town that's got a location, you really don't have an interest in maybe changing things or expanding, but yet you still have to kind of keep up with what the competition's doing, and there's really no barrier to entry maybe of a new competitor coming in town. So you might have to fight for your territory a little bit more. Yeah, no, that's for sure. So especially for manufactured housing communities, depending on where you are as the investor, if you're the seller or the buyer, the cap rates may become so compressed where it's very difficult to try to make sense for it. Where in RV parks, kind of why I like them so much is because the price per site is sometimes lower, and there's not as much competition in that arena. To be able to try to go in as a buyer. So it's definitely, I guess it depends on which side of the table you're on. That's gonna be better for you if you're that type of investor. Sure.
Yeah. Talk to me about the opportunity for third party management. Like I know in the mobile home park space, there's really, I know there's some third party management companies out there that specialize in this space, but it's more common to have a vertical infrastructure. I mean, that's what I see amongst a lot of owners and operators, smaller and larger. They just have a vertical management infrastructure in place. They don't really outsource it. Is there the opportunity? And I know that you're a consultant, so you actually are involved in this in this side of the business. is there the opportunity, if I want to go in and buy RV parks, is there the opportunity for me to outsource this to a larger consulting firm like yourself or to another third-party management company that can kind of step in and help me run the show correctly? Because I know that's not really the case with mobile home parks. Like, I pretty much have to be prepared to take that project in-house. I can't really plan on bringing on a team outside of our organization to help me move things along.
Yeah, there's always benefits to having someone be able to, join your team that can bring some experience along, especially if you're becoming new to the space that is somewhat similar to some of the holdings that you had, but are in some aspects different. That was the case with me with a large REIT that was in Michigan. They weren't super familiar with the RV space. They probably only had 5 or 10 RV resorts at that point. So they had brought me on as a consultant to, help them with the transition. And now they own over 100 RV resorts.
Wow.
In over 2-3 years. So they obviously like that space as well as manufactured housing. They have, 120,000 pads. They have probably over 200 manufactured housing communities, and then they have over 100 RV resorts. They like to take a balanced approach to their investment holdings to, not be too heavily weighted, in one aspect of this arena over the other. Talking about MH to RV and geographic, it's a balanced approach because depending on, what happens with the economy in the future, RV resorts, when, the economy is in upswings, the RV resorts outperform. And, when the economy is in other areas, sometimes the manufactured housing portfolio performs. So
right.
It's sort of a leveraged approach to your investment portfolio on a larger scale. So understanding how to, if from my standpoint, when I see that somebody has a manufactured housing community and they're an investor and they're an operator in it, they can go in and operate these RV resorts because they're very similar to one another. Mm-hmm. Just some of the aspects of the business is different. So sometimes just even a short-term consultant or maybe long-term consultant helps them getting up with the marketing aspects, the business aspects, the retail aspects of the business that just have sometimes a ramp-up period to it. It's usually about 12 to 24 months from my experience.
Okay. So. Now, what are some of the common mistakes that you see new RV park investors make when they get into this niche? I'm sure, if you ask me what are the common mistakes, that new mobile home park investors make, I could probably name 5 off the top of my head. But I mean, RV park's slightly different. Give me an idea of what you see the mistakes are that operators are making when actually maybe not even new RV park operators, but maybe existing park operators that are kind of running their business into the ground. What are the top mistakes that are being made?
Well, obviously it's deployment of capital expenditures. Some of the investors may not be able to relate with the customer experience for going into an RV resort, but they can relate to it as going into a hotel. Like if you ever gone into an old hotel that was run down, you may not want to come back to it because you're expecting, somewhat, of a resort experience. So I would say that the most critical aspect to RV resort investing is carefully planning, capital expenditures and the operations standpoint of it, how the park looks, how the curb appeal is. It's definitely very important in this arena because people are vacationing, and in some places to stay a night in an RV resort's $100. Mm-hmm. You can almost get a hotel for that, and you're just renting, you're just renting the dirt that's there. So that's the first area of focus any RV resort owner should have is capital expenditure, curb appeal, how the operations going on it. The second part is just to have a clean marketing front. I think that there's certain buys inside of the RV resort arena that are wise, just like there is in manufactured housing. Like if you're selling homes for your community, a lot of people find benefit from being in MH Village. They see benefits from, advertising frequently, on Craigslist, and they may, see benefits from putting the homes onto Zillow. Is because of how many transactions are happening inside of an RV resort, a plan for marketing has to be set in place. Total disregard to it, expecting that your same customers are going to come back year after year, is probably going to make a park fall flat on its face and not operate at the top end of where it should be. There has to be a marketing budget set into place. The actions of that marketing budget have to be walked through, and that'll make the park grow year over year. So that's probably the second.
Okay. And I'm assuming that in a world of social media that probably reviews are like the lifeblood of an RV park, right? I mean, if your park falls victim to like negative reviews, meaning if you're not handling those capital improvements and you're not keeping a good curb appeal and you're not creating a great customer service experience for your residents, too many bad online reviews can really drill you down into the ground. I'm assuming, right? It could be the death of a community. Would you agree with that?
100%. That as an investor, it's wise to look at those reviews before going in and purchasing, so you know what you're walking into. Yes. Because if you're going in and you're buying an RV park and there's terrible reviews, the seller may be telling you one story about the park, but the customers are telling a different story. So that's one of the benefits about RV resorts and social media and reviews are today, is you can get another look at what's happening inside of the park rather than just the P&L and kind of maybe some color that's given to you by a seller. Mm-hmm. So that's 100% right.
Yeah. So how do you go about changing a reputation of an RV park? It's a little bit different. Like most mobile home parks the residents don't rely on the online reviews. I mean, maybe some of the really higher end parks they do, but the average 2-3 star mobile home park, I mean, they might have a Facebook page and that's about it. And it's probably not very active, right? And so they don't really rely heavily on social reviews to drive traffic to them, whereas a RV park does. And so in a mobile home park, although it might have a bad reputation locally, I don't necessarily have to worry about the online reputation that it has, because it's much easier to change that local reputation than it is that online reputation. So should you be very cautious when, like, I like turnaround plays, I like distressed deals, but should you be very cautious if you're looking at an RV park that's got a lot of negative reviews about it, even if there's an opportunity there, like, you can buy it right, that it's in a great area, it could definitely be turned around. Is there a lot of heavy lifting involved in order to change that negative online reputation?
I don't think so, and I think it tells a great story about new ownership coming in. Okay. And then it's all online. It tells your story of turnaround. Mm-hmm. It provides the color as you as the investor who, came into a park where the park maybe was great at one point. Someone came in and bought it, ran it into the ground. Now it's distressed. No one's happy. You came in and fixed it up and turned around the online reputation, and your guests and your customers will probably show more love to you than you would have ever expected. And that does happen. That's exactly one of the campaigns that I had done as a consultant when I had gone to the REIT that was in Michigan. I did it with TripAdvisor. We had a internal campaign with the employees, and the people who could get the most TripAdvisor reviews, we gave them little spiffs. So then you can kind of have fun with it with the whole crew that might be working there. The maintenance guy who helps one of the residents out, if he can get his name onto TripAdvisor, we would put his name into a raffle to win something. We had a good time with it. It was fun, and then also Facebook and Instagram and all the different other outlets. We did all sorts of things to try to get a total team effort for engagement, and it worked. And those RV parks that were distressed had the biggest had the biggest turnaround in 2 years out of any other parks that were in the portfolio. They had upsides of 20% year over year, which you couldn't do in a manufactured housing community,
right?
Because they're too slow and stable. So there's no big upsides to it. It's definitely for a different investor because you have to have the enthusiasm and the creativity to be able to do these types of things. But if you have it, then you can see huge gains, especially in distressed properties. They provide the biggest upside that you can find because they can change literally overnight. So,
okay. Well, fantastic. Any lasting or any last advice, Stephen, that you would give to those that have an interest in this niche? I mean, where would one start to gain some education? Like if they're brand new, I mean, maybe they're not a brand new investor, but they're brand new to this industry. Are there any operators out there or any educational outlets for RV parks specifically on the operation side of things on how to get up to speed with that? I mean, do you know of any? Are there any associations where one can go to get training?
Yeah, there's a lot of state associations depending on, which state that you're in. There's also some franchises that I think do an excellent job, and it takes a lot for me to say that for someone to give them kudos. I think they do very well with helping their owners be able to receive new education. Obviously, I think even if you're just trying to get your toes in the water, there's a lot of RV shows and things along those lines that are throughout the country that happen all the time just to start a conversation. I basically learned this industry working for, a consolidator and did it on the job, like kind of trial by fire. So, but there's a lot of different resources if you look on the state level as well as in the private sector with the different franchises that are out there.
Okay, fantastic. And for those that want to reach out to you, Steve, what's the best way to contact you? Website, email, phone number? What's the preferred method?
Yeah, you could always go on to my website. It's stomaso.kw.com. Or they could reach out to me via email, is stomaso@kw.com. And or you can go onto my Facebook page. It's Stephen Tomaso, New York real estate broker. And you can go through any one of those methods. I'd be more than happy to help out with anything that I can. And I also have about 19 manufactured housing communities that are for sale that are currently on the market. So if you're just a manufactured housing investor and you're looking for some new properties for your portfolio, give me a buzz. I'd be more than happy to show you what I have. Okay,
fantastic, Steve. Well, appreciate you joining us on the show today. And you have fun there out in Vegas. Don't get in too much trouble in the evening times. And we will talk to you again another time, my friend. You take care and have a great day.
All right, thanks, Kevin.
Congratulations for taking the necessary steps to achieving massive success through the highly lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. Be sure to visit our website, mobilehomeparkacademy.com, to download your free digital ebook version of the 21 biggest mistakes investors make when buying their first mobile home park and how you can avoid them. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe to our free monthly mobile home park investing newsletter, which is jammed full of valuable tips, tricks, and strategies to help you accelerate your path to success as a mobile home park investor. More information about this podcast and its hosts can be found by visiting mobilehomeparkacademy.com.